President Bola Tinubu directs cost-cutting measures involving his office, VPs, and Office of the First Lady.
On international trips, the President has directed that no more than 20 individuals be allowed to travel with him.
To avert industrial disputes.
And Nigeria destroys 2.5 tons of illegal and confiscated animal stockpiles.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall re-examine foreign certificates and Nigeria's educational development.
Don't get trapped in dogma. That is, don't live in the result of other people's thinking. Do not allow the noise of other people's opinion drown your own voice. Have the courage to follow your own heart and intuition. Every other thing is secondary.
Indeed, Claire, this is certain that you're citing a quote by Steve Jobs in relation to the priority given to the rote learning and craze for paper qualifications or degree certificates over and above practical experience or acquired skills.
Absolutely, Victor. And just let me take you back to the period of Aristotle, the great philosopher, who wrote that an experienced person is indeed a person who has acquired a coping skill, an appropriate attitude, and a sense of situation. Now, according to Aristotle, the soul and the body are interdependent, which indicates that there's a close connection between human activity, human cognition, and the human character.
Indeed, another philosopher, John Dewey, also elaborated on the importance of experience. He pronounced a set of instructional concepts and principles that highlight a learner's active role in their own learning.
Absolutely. Again, Victor, you're quite right. And there's no doubt that, the works of those great men resonate with what is now termed, within the global space, degree mills. That's the priority attached to paper certificates by employers of labor, which is the driving the premium driver of students seeking fraudulent means to obtain those certificates. Now, according to some reports, those forged certificates were linked to students seeking certification in some professional disciplines and for employment.
Yeah, you're right there. And Premium Times report indicates that the most disheartening aspect of the documents falsification racket is the fake admission letters and ID cards issued to some of the students who have gone far in their academic pursuits undetected.
And that report, Victor, also said that the suspects equally falsify bank tellers, the tellers you use for payment of tuition, which the students normally tender for clearance in their registration processes. Now, they also clone ID cards, and those cost about 1,000 naira. Forged bank tellers go for between 1,000 and 1,500 naira, depending on your bargaining power, while the certificates themselves cost 2,000 naira. Can you imagine?
Indeed. Investigations also show that many top decision makers in our public service may also be involved in this certificate racketeering. Now, some have been accused of parading fake certificates or qualifications that they did not acquire legitimately. And the fraud is not peculiar to students seeking admission or applying for jobs. There is a long list of political leaders who allegedly parade forged certificates and fake degree, and the phenomenon pervades all sectors, Claire.
Oh yes, the phenomenon of certificate racketeering has become a thorn in the flesh of every Nigerian and every government, even in the face of a seemingly strong regulatory system. Good Morning Nigeria opened up conversation on this rise in menace, especially from our neighboring countries.
Actually, the acting executive secretary of the NUC, that's the Nigerian National Universities Commission, Chris Meyaki, says investigation is ongoing. Vice Chancellor of Unijust, Professor Tanko, talked about the challenges, and Dr. Emmanuel Ande Yoba, Education Thematic Lead and Executive Director, Center for Faith and Community Development, hinted at some of the driving factors like incessant interruptions in the academic calendar and public interference in the university system administration.
So on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall dig deeper into this ugly phenomenon with another set of guests. And the purpose, basically, is to make sense of this menace and preferred ways of restoring dignity to our learning. I am Claire Adilabu Abdulrazak. And in the words of Chukwudi Okoli, let's go high on Good Morning Nigeria. It's a good drink to start your day.
Indeed, apologies to Chukwudi Okoli, and I am Victor Azo. I'm joining Claire to serve that drink this morning. Good Morning Nigeria is broadcast live on the network service of the NTA. We shall also talk about the new travels order issued by President Bola Tinubu to cut costs of governance. In a moment, we shall begin with the highlights of the morning news, the business news, and much later, newspaper review. Let's now head to meet with Olajide Bello for the highlights of the morning news. Olajide, hi.
Good morning, Victor. Good morning, Claire. Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to the news. President Bola Tinubu has directed an immediate cost-cutting measures on local and international travels of federal government officials. The directive covers his office, that of the First Lady, the Vice President, and his wife. The presidential advisor on media and publicity, Ajuri Ngalali, at a briefing at the State House, reveals that the new directive, which is to effectively cut recurring expenditure and financial wastage by drastically reducing the number of officials on such travels, will also affect offices of ministers and agencies under them.
The President has directed that no more than 20 individuals be allowed to travel with him. That number will be cut down to 5 in the case of the First Lady. The number in the entourage on official international trips for the Vice President will be cut to 5. On the wife of the Vice President is also 5. In terms of local trips, the President has approved a new limit of 25 members of staff to accompany him on domestic trips within the country.
By this measure, the President has also decided not to travel with large security details from Abuja to other parts of the country anymore. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture has advised state governors to take accurate data of farmers that will key into the federal government's food security program. Minister of Agriculture and Food Security Abubakar Kyari stated this when he hosted Katsina State Governor in his office in Abuja.
We have to collaborate with the states, the local governments, to come up with a genuine and verifiable farmer list. This is very important because we have to know who the real farmers are, and by so doing, we have to collaborate with the local authorities and the state government.
The Minister of State, Labour and Employment in Kiruka, Georgia, is of the view that every sector of the country, including education, must move on the same pace to achieve the current administration's renewed hope agenda. She made the point during a closed-door meeting with leadership of the Academic Staff Union of Universities ASU in Abuja. A statement from the ministry says the engagement is part of efforts to avert industrial disputes in the academic cycles and forge a way forward to a smooth academic session in Nigeria in 2024 and beyond, while craving the indulgence of the leadership of the union led by President Comrade Emmanuel Sodeke to allow the ministry to know all the problems of the union. The minister extended an open invitation for dialogue and complete transparency. Nigeria has again demonstrated a strong goodwill towards ending wildlife trafficking as it crushes another 2.5 tons of seized work ivory and elephant tusks in a push to discourage killings and illegal trading in animal parts. Minister of State for Environment Isiaq Salako supervised the destruction of the confiscated items under the custody of the National Environmental Standards Regulation and Enforcement Agency, NISRA, in Abuja.
Nigeria is sending very, very clear signal, unambiguous, that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not tolerate illegal wild crimes.
And those are the news highlights for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Victor and Claire after this break.
Welcome back. It's Good Morning Nigeria. Now we hear that there is an increase in the demand for Nigerian products and produce. And to, of course, effect this, the federal government is developing what we hear is an integrated export control plan for ease of exports. Let's join Comfort Amodu for details of this and other business stories.
We look forward to seeing more mechanization and a lot more that can happen to increase our GDP as a country.
Nigeria has renewed its strategies and efforts to increase the quality and volume of export of indigenous products and produce to global markets to boost its GDP and foreign exchange earnings.
With the new mandate to increase the non-oil export in Nigeria, for us to be able to create jobs, empower people, especially women, and all inclusiveness in terms of small and medium enterprises. A lot of countries are seeking for Nigerian products.
We need to think out of the box so that people can reduce wastage and loss from after sending our products out to be rejected. We can reduce the barriers and cost. It should be a station whereby SON, customs, NAFDAC, whatever have you, can be able to pass them, have a barcode. Once they get to the port, scan, let them go out, so that all our perishable products don't get exhausted in our ports.
The initiative to increase financing for exporters in Nigeria through key financial institutions in the country is geared towards enhancing the financial base for MSMEs and exporters to promote non-oil export long term. Next is the closing figures of trades on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, Comfort Amodu.
Right, thanks, Comfort, for that business news. Up next is newspaper review.
Let's quickly welcome newspaper reviewer Chukwudi Okoli Ubaja. Chukwudi, good morning.
Good morning, Claire. How are you today?
Very well.
Good morning, Victor.
How are you? Good morning.
I'm okay. Could be better.
Yes, okay. We'll just quickly begin to take the papers. I'd just like to start with the Punch. And the Punch is leading with humanitarian ministry scandals. It says EFCC seizes Edu former ministers' passports. Bank MDs grilled suspended minister barred from traveling. And police parade 3 suspects linked to Plateau killings. And you see that we have picture story right in front there. 85 abducted as bandits return to Kaduna Abuja Expressway. And Lagos police look into Tiwa Savage's petition against Davido. It's on page 5. TB Joshua, Scran fools BBC report, ex-disciple knocks late prophet. And above the nameplate, NNPCL posts over 2 trillion naira profit. Details on page 21. And fake degrees, FG probes 107 private universities. Nigerians hail Tinubu as president trims foreign trips entourage. Victor.
Right, the leadership is before me, and just above the nameplate, 2023 Supreme Court reserves judgment in Delta Plateau appeals. Boko Haram burns 6 to death, maims 4 in Borno. Below the nameplate up, the major story here, Tinubu, cost of governance. Tinubu cuts travel delegation by 60% with the riders. President's foreign entourage slashed to 20. Vice President 5. Local trips cut to 25 members for President First Lady 10. CEOs of agencies limited to 2 members. And Shekarau, others laud decision. And by the side of that, you have Gabriel Attal, 34, emerges France's Prime Minister. That's on page 7. Shatima tasks Benue leaders on unity governance. Page 7. Nasarawa records 75 kidnap, 83 robbery cases in 1 year. Page 17. And Synagogue Church tackles BBC over documentary. That's on page 4. And I also have, before I leave the leadership, World Bank projects Nigeria's growth at 3.3% in 2024. Interesting. I also have the Nation here with me. Above the nameplate, Armed Forces Day, government to close major roads in Abuja. Newspaper of the year, Supreme Court reserves judgment on Mutfwang's appeal against SAC. And the last above the nameplate is Rivers Assembly awaits Fubara's 2024 budget. Others, that's on page 5. And court validates Anyanwu as PDP National Secretary. That's on page 3. And below the nameplate, just so, police parade suspects in Plateau killings. Others, that's on page 5. And Tinubu orders cut of president's, vice president's travel teams. I think that's where this story began, on page 4. We've seen this earlier. 37 billion naira is the major story. 585 million naira probe. Sadia, Edu barred from traveling. And finally, from the front page of the Nation, EFCC impounds international passports. Those are riders. 3 bank MDs squeezed. Interior Minister at the Aso Villa. And finally, no sacred cow in anti-graft battle, says Olukoyede. And there's that picture story just at the bottom of the front page of the Nation. Police rescue hotelier held after payment of 25 million naira ransom. That's on page 6. Chukode.
Yes, I am happy to hear that there are 3 suspects, in police net concerning the killings in Plateau State the other time. They are suspects at this point. The reason I'm saying this is that some of these fatal skirmishes that happen, not just on the plateau, some parts of the country as well. What irks Nigerians is that there are times when virtually no arrest is made at all. So you begin to ask whether this does not encourage those who are behind this to go on the killing spree. So it's a good thing that there are 3 people in police custody. Let us trail how they are being handled, find out whether they're actually culpable, and help police in any way we can at all to make sure that even more people are apprehended.
At least that's a step forward.
It's
a step forward
very
in all of our discussions. The fundamental issue that had been pointed out was the fact that there's been no outcome of investigations.
That's it.
Yes. So now that suspects have been identified and arrests made, so it's a step forward. Like you said, we'll follow through. We'll keep following the proceedings.
The president is stepping down. The number of people on the entourage, whether he's going out or traveling within the country, that goes for the VP's office and as well as other officials. And I want to say that it is always good to show that examples are better than precepts. Yes. show me the example, I, as the follower, would find it easier to. So I think it's a commendable thing. People will say, how much do they really spend on these trips? Put it all together. It begins to become, it's a lot of money.
Especially the foreign trips. It's a lot.
So the point being made
if I give you, according to reports on the social media calculations, there are, of course, social media outfits that will delve into the mathematical aspect of it. Hunger will cost nothing less than 2.7 billion.
But remember that sometimes social media is wildfire.
That's why I say. That's why I tell you. That's why I tell you. At least from calculations.
It gives you.
It's quite elaborate.
Yes, it gives you an idea.
Quite elaborate. Yes.
It gives you an idea, of what it might cost. To take a large, contingent or entourage.
Exactly.
Yes, but it's part of our second topic, so we really don't want to.
That's a good one.
But one other, story I would like you, although it's not on the front page, is the issue of incident that happened in Lagos, where some soldiers, were alleged to have, used bad words on the state governor. We hear that those soldiers, one of the soldiers involved, had been arrested, for condemning the action of Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos. Actually, I think what happened was that someone in military uniform, apparently a soldier, was riding one way against the traffic. And the governor entourage was, there, and the governor apprehended him.
Yes.
And it went viral, So a group of men in army uniform, condemned the governor's, action and all that. But now, sorry?
They took turns making videos.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I didn't see those videos,
yes,
but
I saw two,
yes.
actually.
I can't vouch for the authenticity because I've not read it in depth. I've not even seen it at all.
No, but the video, I saw the video
Yes.
of someone in uniform, in
Yes,
military uniform.
yes.
A very young
Very good.
officer was saying,
Again,
Yes, the military says, look, only one of those videos is only one person is a genuine soldier. And that is a cause for concern.
You're even taking it to another alarming level in town.
That's where I'm coming.
So sometimes when they flag you down on the highway, you're not too sure where you're being
Whether
stopped by.
he's flagging you.
Oh, no. That's not good news.
Exactly.
No, but criminals have used that.
Of course they have.
So
They have.
those in uniform in that video that are not genuine soldiers should also be apprehended.
Found out.
Therefore,
Yes.
for the genuine soldiers, please, the uniform you have on you confers on you the need for you to live above board, so to speak, if you can. Because you are bearing the symbol of the federal government of Nigeria.
I've always extolled the dignity of a soldier.
Yeah,
the discipline
soldiers
of the
are
soldier.
soldiers.
Not just if you attend any of the military schools, it manifests in your character, in the way you comport yourself, in your courage.
Where are these cropped from?
No, we have said, talked about the possibility of fake soldiers out there. But then remember, however institutionalized, regimented soldiers would be, there would occasionally be blacklegs in the army. It happens everywhere.
I wonder why I didn't become a soldier. Each time I see them in uniform, well...
Claire, can we please go home on this program? Soldier indeed.
I'm just trying to imagine what uniform will look like on you. Chukwudi Okoli-Umaja, we thank you.
I think she smiles too much to be a soldier anyway.
Thank you, Chukwudi Okoli-Umaja.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you for thanking me out.
All right, good morning. Nigeria returns shortly.
All right, welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. And we told you, of course, that we have two topics for this morning. And just yesterday, President Bola Tinubu announced new travels order to cut cost governance in the country. And that, of course, the presidency says is in line with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration. We have our guest right here in the studio to speak on this issue. We have Dr. George Agbakahi. He's the Southeast leader of Tinubu Support Organization and a political affairs analyst. Dr. Agbakahi, thank you very much for joining us. In compliment of the season, by the way.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate. Happy New Year to Nigerians.
Victor.
Well, let's begin by asking you, Doc, what your initial reaction is to yesterday's announcement of cost-cutting measures.
It didn't really come to me as a surprise. I see it as a welcome development, knowing the character and the nature of person our current president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is. He's somebody that believes in cutting costs in governance, even when he was governor of Lagos State. You see, since we came back to democracy in 1999, you know, the issue of having numerous traveling aides going about with the president, the vice president, governors, ministers, even heads of parastatals, has become a source of intense conversation in this great country. It is long overdue. So it took a president that has the boldness, the resoluteness to really bring it, you know, to order. Listen, cutting it all the way to 60%, I believe is probably the first in any African country.
No, I don't think so.
It's 60%.
60%, but it's not. Well, if you talk about the rate,
that's what I'm
yes,
saying.
The rate, because I understand during the last administration, similar directive was also given by the immediate past president. He did announce a cut in the number of people going on foreign trips or whatever, But of course we. Whether it was
it wasn't really kept to.
That's why I want to ask you about implementation. If it's one thing to give directive, another thing for the MDAs. We know the MDAs. We know how they are. They can find ways, to circumvent this. So some are suggesting that probably the president could accompany this with an executive order to enforce, this directive.
Well, according to his press secretary, I really saw it as an executive order. You see, let me tell you something. I remember when I was in this platform during the inauguration of our president, I told Nigerians that our president is a no-nonsense president. And I also said that the incoming ministers then, that they need to buckle up. It's no longer business as usual. If you do not live up to expectation in this current government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you are gone.
So his words is as good as an executive order?
Yes. He is somebody who truly believes in democracy, believes in justice, believes in fairness, and believes in the eradication of poverty, but more importantly, corruption in this country. And you will see it happen in the next 4 years. So when you see the amount of money that is being thrown away in governance in this country is enormous. So it's good we have a president who can match his words by action. And I believe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that kind of president. Just watch out what will happen.
But the only worry that I have is, this is good by every measure, but if we cannot trickle it down to other tiers of government, it won't have the kind of impact, the magnitude of impact that Nigerians would be looking for. How can we get it to trickle down?
Well, for this measure to start from the president, cutting the number of aides he's traveling with all over the world and internally in Nigeria to 20. And also ordering the vice president of this great country to cut his own to, I don't know if it's about 6.
I think 5.
To 5, as well as the first lady and the second lady. For it to start from him at the head, I believe it will work. There are issues. I've seen some of my friends who are ministers or heads of agencies. Sometimes they travel out with 15 heads, 10 heads. It's a very bad policy in the past.
What do you think could have prompted, this action, particularly with, regards to travels? Because a lot of people, when the conversation on, cutting government costs and recurrent expenditures, the expectation is usually on wage cuts. And which comes from the point of view of public servants and also the National Assembly. A lot of Nigerians have harped on the fact that there should be a wage cut, on the part of our legislators. So I'm wondering, why is travel cost, a premium, the primary point of action?
You know very well there has been a lot of sacrifices by Nigerians in respect of some of the very bold policies that the government has demonstrated. For example, the removal of the fuel subsidy, as well as the extrication of the multiple exchange rate to the single exchange rate. Our president is a very benevolent individual who understands the pains of Nigerians. If you remember, during the Christmas period, he was able to, ask transporters, to reduce, the amount of transportation for up to 50%. And it was a welcome development to, the masses, especially those traveling to the east, the west, and to the north. He's really looking for a way to resuscitate our ailing economy. And this issue, of traveling by ministers, by governors, with numerous heads, it takes a lot of money from the purse of this country. Billions.
Much more than the alleged bloated, wage of public servants.
I sincerely believe that the wages of public servants, like senators, House of Rep members, and even ministers, is high. And I believe with time, the president will probably look into it and work on it. But I'm also pretty delighted that he has talked about increasing the salaries, of civil servants, which shows the benevolence that I talked about. But the idea of senators, House of Rep members earning huge sums of money is one that the president also needs to look at.
All right.
You started talking about the quantum of what is spent in terms of monetary terms, what it costs the government in those travels, and I'm just wondering, in relation to the budget, how much of that? Because I want to believe that in calculating the 2024 budget, all the travels and expenditures were also mainstreamed into the expenditure. So how much of this 60% cut, might be reflected in the budget?
It will be really difficult for me to tell at this point, but I know it is enormous, and I quite understand that in the past, there has also been some, fraud involved in this traveling. There has been areas where public servants will add names of staff. You know, there has been news report where names of staff have been added, receiving ESTA code, and some of them wouldn't travel. There has been news reports in this since 1999. You are newsmen, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So for the president to take this decision to ameliorate this malfeasance, he has a good idea. Our president is a thinker. He's a visionary. He knows exactly what he's doing. This is somebody that has been in government. He knows exactly where the pains are in this particular country and to cut on these loopholes. So that is what you are seeing. It is a very good policy. It is a welcome development, and Nigerians are proud of that particular policy.
What I'm actually asking is that this cut is expected, you know, to reflect in the some of the recurrent expenditure. Now that there's a cut, how might it help in implementing the renewed hope agenda?
Well, you know very well that in the past, the issue of recurrent expenditure has always been a problem. You know, the president, I believe, does not want to hype Nigerian hopes in external borrowing. Mind you, when he was governor in Lagos, he was the first person that generated revenue internally. When he came in as governor, the IGR of Lagos State then, remember, used to be about 600 million. But before he left in 2007, it came out to about 7-8 billion. And because of the foundation he laid in Lagos State in terms of economy, currently the internally generated revenue of Lagos State is about 51 billion. So president is looking for ways of generating revenue for this country, and not only external borrowing, which has always been the bane of previous administration in terms of wealth creation in this country.
In what other areas would you think, because this alone, like I said earlier, will not bring the kind of impact that you want to see in terms of,
revenue
costs.
impact.
Yes, you won't see that. And so in what other areas do you think that the president can exercise his authority to bring down costs of governance? Because that's what Nigerians will be looking to see. The really significant ones.
You know, some of the problems we are having in this country that militates against revenue generation involves insecurity. The president, I believe, has been working on bringing stability and security to this country. If you are newsmen in the Niger Delta, the level of insecurity in the Niger Delta currently has gone well down. See, I was in the East. I just came back. I was in the East during the Christmas. The level of insecurity in the East throughout this Christmas went down tremendously. Mind you, in every country, security, development, and economic capability, they are all related. So if the president and his team can be able to bring down the level of insecurity, which I believe in the past 6-7 months, he has done a great job on that. And secondly, but more importantly, the issue of power, electricity, is a major factor in this great country. If the president and his team will also be able to work on the issue of power so that we can be able to generate power in this country, electricity. That will also involve having development from the outside world.
Dr. George, we will be having a much more elaborate conversation on this, in our subsequent editions of Good Morning Nigeria. But just before we let you go, I would like you, indeed, even opposition, parties have commended, this initiative taken by Mr. President. It didn't just start, with this. It started last year in September when, the political leaders were about to go for hunger. That's the United Nations General Assembly. The president, of course, directed, that those who are not directly involved, should not be accommodated on the protocol list. And, those are steps. And we've also seen the president come out to match his words with action. Everybody is there. There's no doubt about it. But let us look at the security details, especially the local security details that, has also been pruned down. The president now, by this directive, will be, accompanied by local security details. How does that, I don't want to use, how might that not, compromise the security of Mr. President? It is expected that the president should, travel with his own trusted and, relied security agents.
In security, I believe the issue of intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing are key to effective security. So, if our security apparatus are able to gather intelligence, share intelligence in such a way that there will be a synergy between all sections of the security apparatus, in such a way that if something is happening, for example, in Kaduna, the military, the Navy, Air Force, the police, they need to be interconnected to know exactly what is happening. The same thing is applicable to what is happening in the southeast and the southwest.
Because in other countries, it's the president, it's the federal, security agents that guard the president.
Yeah, but mind you, there are also federal agents in other states. We have DSS
exactly.
in other states.
All right.
Under one commander who is in Abuja.
Dr.
So
George,
I don't see anything that is wrong.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I
do hope we'll be able to have you when we are having a fuller conversation.
Thank you very much.
Dr. George Agbaka, Southeast leader of Tinubu Support Organization and political affairs analyst. We'd like to thank you, for the perspectives you have raised. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate it.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Africa.